Hey everybody, Bandicoot Commando here, and welcome back to Marvel Rivals. Last time, doo-doo-doo, I read, he's all the way down here, the Hood's lore story, carved in stone. Basically, it detailed how after Parker had escaped from the vault and he found the titular cloak that belonged to the entity Oblivion, Parker initially used his newfound power to rise and make a name for himself in the criminal underworld. However, he was then that's when Oblivion set him on a job to do, and that is to find the tablet of death and entropy and take it from Apocalypse. He had to go to a different... He had to leave the current timeline, though, the current universe, to go to the one where Apocalypse is for it. As Parker snuck around and avoid detection, that's when he ran into someone by the name of Ozymandias. Ozzy is some kind of stone carver who carves pretty much the future and etches it in hieroglyphs, works for Apocalypse to tell the future for him. And it showed a lot of signs and a lot of things for events that are yet to come. And while this does somewhat shake Parker a bit, he's still determined to go through with his mission and insist that he's in control and not Oblivion, and ends up killing Ozzy, although not before asking where exactly the tablet of death and entropy are. But from there, Parker then witnesses Apocalypse's death. And well, while he's going to take advantage to steal the tablet, he does question, after seeing everything, all those things carved in the stone that Ozzy did, he's wondering if he's starting to have second doubts about it. But we know him, he's going to be stubborn and double down about it. So today, well, first off, there's a new this going on for Magic and Scarlet Witch. I already completed Magic's, so I'll do Wanda's later. I'll do Wanda sometime later to get another skin. And yeah, there's just now more... Oh, I forgot they did one for Storm. Wait, the Lady Loki skin is back. Ooh, I gotta get this while I can. This is probably going to be my only chance to get the Lady Loki skin, so when I get paid... Oh yeah, this is a... Okay, yeah, when I get paid next time, I will be sure to purchase the Lady Loki skin. Make sure, yeah. Okay, and yeah, they're still going on with the... I'm not going to get these in time, unfortunately. But I'm fine waiting till next year. I'm just more focused on wanting to complete this, because I'm so close to getting this done and out of the way. Oh, and they put Gambit's Apocalypse form on here, so now I got... So now I got 1, 2, 3... I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 of these left to catch up with. Anyway, all of that aside, distractions aside, I got all the gallery images for Season 9 here. So, why don't we read and see what we can learn? The Mystery of Thebes. Yep. Evil under the moon. Not used to silence. Ever since the day Khonshu first chose me to be his fist of vengeance, he's been chattering away inside my head, filling every moment with his demands and his criticisms. I've gotten used to the constant noise. The sudden silence? That scared me to death. It all started with a scream. Khonshu called out my name, frantically begging his Moon Knight to come and find him. The rest of what he said after that didn't make much sense, but I eventually put the pieces together and realized that he was in Thebes, which tracks, I guess, since he's the Egyptian god of the moon. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Thebes from my reality that he was in. Sure, they still stood in the same spot, but it was like our Thebes had been painted over with a weirder version. He had crossed over through the divine space into a collapsed timeline he told me about once. A world where the gods were waging war against one another. When Khonshu's ramblings went quiet, I knew I didn't have any choice but to follow. A big chunk of Steven's money had been frozen while Fisk had the city in his grip, but luckily Tony Stark owed me a favor after what went down in New York. He gave me a lift, free of charge, and promised to keep it quiet. When I arrived in Thebes, I could hear Khonshu again, his commanding voice reduced to a faint whisper. I knew where his temple was in my timeline, so I figured that it might be in the same place here. I was right. Inside was the god whom I devoted my life to serving, reduced to a trembling heap of bones. Khonshu hid in the corner of his sanctuary, terrified as he clutched onto a senet board and what seemed to be a bird skull not too different from his own. He looked at the skull and muttered the name, Thoth. I instantly knew what that meant, and it wasn't good. Khonshu may have been my patron, but he wasn't the only god in his pantheon, the Ened. Thoth was one of his fellow Egyptian deities, another moon god with a focus on wisdom and magic. Usually I like to associate Thoth with just god of wisdom, not so much as god of the moon. Anyway, but now he was dead. From what I can piece together from Khonshu's incoherent ramblings, the rest of the Ened had died along with Thoth, all by the hand of the same killer. And now it seemed like that Godslayer was looking for Khonshu in an effort to finish the job. I tried to get Khonshu back on his feet, but his divine power had been drained. He didn't know how it happened or who had done it to him, but for all intents and purposes, he was no longer a god at all. Maybe that was a blessing in disguise, though, as it may have been the one thing that saved him from the same fate as Thoth and the others. I reached out my hand one more time, and Khonshu firmly pressed his Ankh into it. It was once the vessel where he stored his fate, and he wanted me to use it to recover what had been stolen from him before it was too late. Good thing I knew exactly where to start my search. The strange pyramid with a big blue face looming over Thebes. Just as I gazed toward the pyramid, a surge of energy swept through the city. In the next instant, the energy coalesced into a wild storm surrounding Thebes, and there stood the pyramid, right in the eye of the storm, with the cloud of divine energy swirling around its apex. If I was going to get any answers about what was really going on, I knew I'd find them there. Okay, well, there's the start for it. The fact that he mentions that, here, a big chunk of Steven's money. So, Steven Grant is normally he's a criminal businessman of sorts, and he has criminal connections. Usually, Mark uses Steven as a way to get information in order to get, to get information on potential targets in order to continue with his fighting. Let me take a quick drink of water. Since it mentioned that his his assets were frozen because of Fisk, it'll probably be a bit until Mark and Steven, well, I mean, until they can fix that, basically. Not that I would support a criminal wanting his assets unfrozen, but anyway. Number 2 here. Death on the Nile. What we have here is a murder, Daredevil said. And until otherwise noted, every single one of us is a suspect. The assembled heroes stood around Apocalypse's sarcophagus as they considered the events that were rapidly unfolding before them. Thought you were an attorney, devil, Wolverine snarled. Since when did you become a detective? Since somebody killed my boss, Logan, Jubilee replied, putting a hand on her master's coffin. Apocalypse had a plan that could have saved us all, and now it's spiraling completely out of control. Whoever wanted him dead had no idea what they were unleashing. Or they did, Moon Knight added. That's exactly why they offed him. Whatever the case, the X-Men will not be blamed for the death of one of our own, Emma Frost said. We weren't even in this timeline when the incident occurred. I was on Krakoa, using Cerebro to search for mutants scattered across other timelines when I sensed a massive spike in energy, followed by the disappearance of a powerful mutant biosignature. Naturally, I assembled the X-Men to investigate, but it was already too late. That same energy pulse is what caught my attention as well, Mr. Fantastic said. I gathered those of us who were still in New York and brought them here as soon as I could, but apparently we weren't fast enough. Not gonna lie, Moon Knight said. I was already here, but I was dealing with Khonshu drama. Whoever's hunting down Apocalypse is probably the same one that killed the rest of his pantheon. I was in this timeline as well, Magic admitted, but I saw Apocalypse as an ally in this eternal war, not an enemy. Same here, Jubilee said, sadness washing over her. Trust me, there's no good reason for me to want him dead, not after what he promised me. I could not care less if he lived or died, Loki claimed, but I assure you it was not Apocalypse himself who brought me to this place. And I felt the faith being drained from my very being, so I cast a spell that led me to the source. Thor can attest to that. For once, I am not to blame. Wait, so this is even more concerning. The fact that Loki said that he felt the faith being drained from him, and Thor can attest to it. That means Thor is also being affected by the lack of with faith in gods, I guess. Much like Loki, Black Panther added. I was sent here by Bast when she realized that someone was siphoning off her spiritual energy. Unfortunately, it seems as though Apocalypse's demise has only accelerated that problem. The heroes all gazed up at the swirling storm of divine energy centered above Apocalypse's pyramid. The tempest of pure faith grew more volatile with every moment that passed. Yeah, Jubilee said. I was worried about this. See, when the Big Blue croaked, his faith-harvesting engine became unstable. Its energy is leaking out and forming some kind of barrier around Thebes. Jubilee is correct, Mr. Fantastic said. As far as I can tell, there's no way in or out. We're trapped. Not just that, Emma added. My telepathy isn't working correctly, and we've lost our connection with Krakoa. Which means, if one of the X-Men dies here, Logan said, there's no coming back. Such is your faith as mortals, Loki scoffed. But the faith that powers me is being stolen at an alarming rate. A god should not be subjected to such indignity. You're not the god I'm worried about, Loki, Moon Knight snapped back. Khonshu is fading fast. We need to focus on saving him first. Not while there's still a murderer on the loose, Jubilee replied. We stop them, then we resurrect Apocalypse. He's the only one who understands the faith harvesting engine, and how to stop it. We do not need Apocalypse, T'Challa suggested. The machine itself is the key. If we study it thoroughly, we can learn how it functions and return the stolen faith to its original sources. Sounds like the best plan, Daredevil concluded. Solving Apocalypse's murder is going to have to wait until after we get things under control. Let's just hope that we manage to do that before the killer strikes again. So, we all have the scenarios here. Oh yeah, the hood is like hiding up there. So, yeah. The fact that it mentions how Loki is being affected and Thor is being affected, that probably means Angela is also being affected by the lack of faith as well. Even though, technically, Angela is not a god. She's an angel, but, well, a half angel, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Need more water. Okay. Next page. This one. The body in the Lazarus chamber. Ain't easy to kill me. It's even harder to keep me dead once you do. Guess that's one of the benefits of having a healing factor as one of my mutant powers. But whoever took me out this time made sure they finished the job. And with Krakoa's resurrection protocols offline, they almost did me in for good. But they didn't know Jubilee had gotten her hands on some of Apocalypse's death seeds. So now she's brought me back to life as a horseman of death. Someone's gonna have to answer to the Wolverine, just as soon as I can remember who the hell they are. Here's what I do remember. The rest of the superhero set were going around in endless circles as they tried to figure out what to do with Apocalypse's faith harvesting engine. We were getting nowhere. I was getting tired of all the yapping, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. So while they all bickered over a steel egg draining the gods dry, I went to the spot where Jubilee had dragged Apocalypse's corpse following his untimely demise, the Lazarus chamber. Usually, that was where the big fellow went to recover when he was on the brink of death. But this time, it didn't do him any good. Instead of bringing him back to life, it ended up being his final resting place. And apparently, it was almost mine. Soon as I saw Apocalypse's body, I knew something was off. I popped a claw and dragged it across his gray skin, only to discover that he didn't have a single drop of blood left in him. That's when things started getting hazy. I vaguely remember being ambushed by someone familiar, someone I trusted, but then everything went blazing red before it suddenly faded into darkness. The others say that when they found me, my body was drained of blood too, since there were only 2 vampires on the scene, and Blade had been with the other heroes the entire time. All eyes fell on Jubilee. I ain't buying it though. I've known her since she was a kid, and she'd never tried to hurt someone she'd loved. And if she did, she sure as hell wouldn't have brought them back. Maybe something inside her changed when Apocalypse made her of one of his horsemen. I've been there before, and it brought out the worst in me. As tough as I trained her to be, it still might not have been enough to keep her from giving in to her darkest impulses. Anyway, Blade's in full vampire hunter mode, ready to drive a stake through the kid's heart without any proof she did the deed. He claims she killed Apocalypse, then tried to cover it up by killing me when I got too close to the truth. Now Emma and Daredevil are grilling me for answers. All I got is this nagging feeling that there's a hell of a lot more going on in this nightmare of a timeline than any of us have started to realize. Okay, so here's the thing. This image doesn't tell the full story. When you unlock this image alongside with this one and this one, yeah, it's still up here. Yeah, when you get those, you can read and get the full facts of them. So why not? Well, actually, why don't we do that after I get done here? Like, once I read the next two, then we'll do that. Okay, this page. The butterfly trap. I did not think I would ever see my homeland again. After I was stolen from my reality by Deadpool and delivered to the Collector's Gallery, I had every reason to believe that the timeline from which I hailed had ceased to be. Sai, the fabled demon hunter, had truly become a Ronin, a warrior without a home. Yet suddenly, there I was once more, in the forest of Mount Shiaru, with my trusty wolf Logan by my side. It was like a dream come true. But as with all dreams, it came to an end and left me with more questions than answers. I have long relied upon the uncanny power of my mind to guide me, both through battle and through life. But this day, I fear my memories have betrayed me. I recall only fragments of the events that occurred, and even those leave me with a strange sense of uncertainty. What I do recall is this. I had come to this desert wasteland along with my allies, these new kin who called me Mutant and Sister, the X-Men from their island nation of Krakoa. When we arrived, we discovered that one of our own, Isabunu, the mighty Apocalypse, had been struck down by an unknown assailant. It was not long before suspicious glances became accusations. Hoping to uncover the truth, I tapped into my ability to summon the spirits, a skill that I had acquired from my Shigori friends long ago. But I could not commune with Apocalypse. All I sensed were faint traces of undead energy. When I followed the trail to Apocalypse's corpse, that is when everything began to unravel. As I stepped across the threshold of the Lazarus chamber, I found myself instantly transported back to the world I once knew. I was certain that it must be an illusion, but if it was, whoever had cast it was truly skilled in the art of deception. Even my telepathy could not seem to break through the mirage. I took a deep breath of the crisp mountain air, glad to be home at last, and then a sharp pain pierced my chest. An arrow shot by an unseen attacker. As I fell to the ground, gasping for my final breaths, deep purple stained the snow-covered mountainside, and then the only color that remained was black. Eternal peace was not yet mine to claim. Another of the X-Men, Jubilee, had devoted herself to Apocalypse's service. Employing one of her master's death seeds, she restored my life, but the memories of what had occurred had been damaged along the way. Even with the help of another telepath, Emma Frost, we have been unable to piece together the full picture. And now, my experience is fueling more speculation among my allies. The one called Dizong seems genuine in his desire to uncover the truth. I feel I can trust him to separate fact from fabrication. but others are far more eager to cast blame in order to identify the killer among us. Some suspect magic as the culprit, due to her skills as a sorceress supreme and her direct connection to the undead as the Queen of Limbo. But I have no desire to point my finger or my sword at the woman who once fought at my side against Ultron. All will be revealed in time, but I fear it may not be before another shares my fate. Yeah, so this is important. When we get to reading the case facts, you'll understand why. All right, here we are. This one, cards on the table. So y'all are probably wondering how your boy Remy LeBeau got himself into this mess. Well, sit on back and let Remy tell you the story. At least the parts of it I know. All the heroes gathered here in Thebes were distracted, not just by Apocalypse's murder, but by the fact that Logan and Psy had both met their unexpected ends in the very same room where Apocalypse's body was found, the Lazarus Chamber. Obviously, Ms. Anamise decided to stand guard and make sure that no one else came in or out of there till the case was solved. Gambit wasn't just here to track down the killer targeting his fellow X-Men. No, merci. I had business to take care of. Thieves Guild business. Remember that ancient stone the Black Cat delivered to the Kingpin back in New York? Tablet of Life and Time? Well, what you might not know is that it's one of a pair. Its counterpart, the Tablet of Death and Entropy, was rumored to be just as powerful, and it happened to be in Apocalypse's possession. The cat offered me a handsome sum to track it down and bring it back to her. No questions asked. So when we all raced off to Thebes on another grand adventure, I figured I'd be able to kill two birds with one stone. Never expected for a second that I was going to be one of the birds getting killed. Found a secret passage that let me sneak past the guards at the door of the chamber. I was about to start my search for the tablet. As soon as I got near Apocalypse's lifeless body, I felt something strange inside of me. See, I've always been sensitive to energy, no matter what form it may take. Potential, kinetic, you name it. But there's a special kind of energy I don't feel all too often. Pure cosmic energy. The kind that's only generated by a true force of nature like the Phoenix. And for some reason, the big fella's body was still crackling with it. Obviously, I went to take a closer look. Big mistake. Before I knew what was happening, the party was over. Someone had gotten the jump on me, which ain't an easy thing to do. It was lights out on Bourbon Street. Came back to life for too long, thanks to Jubilation and her death seed, only to learn that I was struck down by someone who could tap into cosmic energy, just like Apocalypse before me. Of course, folks here are already casting blame on each other. People think it might been the Black Panther, using the last traces of the Phoenix Force and the weapons Shuri was apparently researching on Clintar to protect the faith of his Panther god. But I got no reason to believe T'Challa would do me like that. Still, somebody did it to me and to Insomnia, and whoever it was has access to power way beyond this world. Till we find out who that somebody is, Gambit's got a feeling ain't none of us gonna be safe. Alright, now that we got those taken care of, why don't I go over the facts of our case here. Oh, no, wrong one. Alright. So, well, Counselor, Emma said, have we uncovered enough evidence to point toward a culprit in the death of Wolverine? Beyond a reasonable doubt, Daredevil replied confidently. We know that Wolverine chose to investigate the crime scene alone, while we were all debating our next move. That's when he discovered that Apocalypse's corpse had been drained of blood. And somewhere soon after, he went into a berserker rage, Emma added, obscuring his memories and making it impossible for me to get a clear mental image of his killer. Logan's body was discovered. He had lost all of his blood as well, Matt continued, which caused some of our allies to jump to conclusions. But I prefer to stick to the facts. And those facts point to? Emma asked. Bucky, Matt said. He struggled to control himself since the days he was a Hydra asset. And it's clear that their more recent experiments on him haven't made things any easier. He's had his fair share of bad breaks, that's certain, Emma said. But we've all got shadows in our pasts. That doesn't make us killers. In his case, it does, Matt said. But if you want more proof, I've got data from a Kimoyo bead scan showing that the hive cells in his body suddenly have traces of a healing factor. Add to that the gouges in the chamber wall, which match the tentacles that come out of his mechanical arm, and, well, I think we have our man. Why would he do such a thing? Emma wondered out loud. That's what I was hoping you could find out, Matt replied. Logan's memory may be clouded, but you might be able to see into his. It will be a challenge, Emma admitted. As I said, my telepathic abilities couldn't function properly under the influence of that big metal ball. You wouldn't need it, Logan interrupted. Bucky's already told me the truth. The one he told me once in this chamber before everything happened. What is it? Matt said. What did he say? I murdered Logan's family, Bucky said with a lump in his throat. His wife, his child. That revelation must have been what sent Logan into a frenzy, Matt summarized. A fight must have broken out between the two of you, which explains the marks I felt on the wall. But that doesn't explain the state we found you in. But it does, Emma said, still reeling. He wasn't in control. The ancient entity inside of him took over, subjecting the mind of its host, and doing unspeakable things to its enemies. Feasting on him, they both did everything they could to fight it, but it was no use. Well, that's one murder solved, Matt said. Sadly, it won't be the last. We need to move on. The question is, can you, Logan? I know all too well what it's like to be controlled by someone else, Logan said. This ain't his fault. Something tells me we've got bigger problems ahead. Yeah, here we are. You can read all of this to get the full context of things. So yeah, the case description. While the heroes argued endlessly around the faith harvesting engine, Wolverine grew sick of their indecision and went to the Lazarus Chamber to examine Apocalypse's remains on his own. As he was leaving, he ran into another living weapon, Bucky. He claimed he needed to confess something important. Long ago, while under Hydra's control, he had mercilessly murdered Logan's family. That shocking revelation awakened Logan's long-buried memories and threw him into a berserker rage. No longer being able to tell friend from foe, he popped his claws and attacked. To protect its host, the repentant soldier's mechanical arm instinctively extended tentacles on its own, and the hive cells within drained Logan's blood and absorbed his healing factor, truly ending Logan's life for the first time. Time to review this case and go over what happened. During a lull in the investigation, Psylocke attempted to summon the spirit of Apocalypse, but failed. What she didn't realize was that a cunning killer had long been watching her every move. Not long ago, Loki had discovered a way to rewrite destiny. With the tools of creation already in hand, the killer needed only the right paint to achieve his goal, and he believed the blood flowing through Psylocke, which came from her unique watercolor universe, might be the last thing he needed. So he trailed Psylocke to the Lazarus chamber, and while she was off guard, trapped her within an illusion. To frame magic for the crime, he killed Psylocke with an arrow imbued with undead energy. But to the killer's dismay, his assumption was wildly wrong. All he obtained from Psy was a muted palette that allows the fragments of the lost worlds to be drawn. Tell me what you remember, Psylocke, Emma said. As soon as I discovered the undead energy emanating from Apocalypse, Psy replied, I felt as though I was transported back home, to my beautiful watercolored universe. An interdimensional portal? Matt asked. No, Psy replied. My timeline was destroyed long ago. This was only an illusion, yet it seems so real. In order to fool my senses, it must have been conjured by someone skilled in the ways of deception. Perhaps another telepath, Emma suggested, or a sorcerer. I do not know, Psy continued. It was all so overwhelming. I let my guard down for an instant, and I paid the price. An arrow pierced my chest, delivered by a secret assassin. As my blood stained the snow, my memories shattered into fragments, which, thankfully, I've been able to help you piece together again, Emma said, for the most part. I will gladly sacrifice a few lost memories for another chance at life, Psy said. If not for Apocalypse's death seed, everything would still be black. We still need to identify your murderer, Matt said. There are those who suspect magic. Eliana would never do such a thing, Emma argued. She told me so herself. I understand why one might accuse the Queen of Limbo, Psylocke said. The arrow that felled me did contain traces of undead energy, similar to those I identified in Apocalypse. Then why not point fingers at Hela? Emma demanded. She is still being held securely in the 8th city, Matt said. Even if it was she who provided the weapon or even plotted the murder, she must have done so through someone else. Then who? Emma asked. Real quick, let me take some water in me. Okay. Reed said that Psy's blood had a unique quality to it, Matt responded. Like it was infused with a force of creation. I examined it myself and it smelled almost like paint. The reality I come from was vibrant and unique, Psy said. Perhaps my assailant was not after me, but rather what runs in my veins. Rumor has it that Loki has obtained a phoenix feather and has woven himself an enchanted canvas, Emma said. All he would need to create entire worlds, or paint out existing ones, is the right ink. Alas, you have uncovered my scheme, Loki said, materializing suddenly. But it was all for naught. I thought this warrior's blood was the very fabled ink of destiny I sought. So you murdered one of my people for nothing? Emma snarled. How dare you? We we both know that death means nothing to mutants these days, Loki said. Psylocke was bound to find a way back to this mortal realm. That was quite the gamble, Matt said. How can we ever trust you again? You shouldn't have in the first place, Loki replied. But to make amends, I promised to use the blood I stole to create an ink-wash garden for Sai. Hopefully she can forgive my trespasses. Forgiven, Psylocke said, her cold gaze fixed on Loki, but never forgotten. So now we have this thing, and with me rereading it, I realized that Loki mentions that it's not the ink of destiny. So he's searching for a specific ink that is the ink of destiny. And unfortunately, Psylocke's blood doesn't exactly match that description. But it can still be used, well. Now for Gambit here. To fulfill his promise to the New York Thieves Guild, Gambit slipped past the guards and snuck into the Lazarus chamber alone. As he was carefully examining Apocalypse's corpse, in an effort to find the Tablet of Death and Entropy, a mysterious killer suddenly appeared and mercilessly attacked him with a handgun. This killer, who had been hiding himself from prying eyes of the assembled heroes, was none other than the Hood. Acting on Oblivion's orders, he had come to find a relic kept by Apocalypse. When he discovered that Gambit had located the item first, he took out Gambit with a bullet carrying Oblivion's power. By a strange twist of fate, both corpses at the scene were left with unusual wounds laced with cosmic energy, wrongly turning suspicious eyes toward the Black Panther. Our murder mystery is finally coming to an end, Emma said. Do you really believe T'Challa could have killed Gambit? Matt asked. Not for a second, Emma replied, but you inspired me to let the evidence lead us to a conclusion. And it did lead us in his direction at first. You're right, Matt agreed. Once we figured out that Gambit's wounds couldn't have been made by a conventional bullet, we had to consider other weapons that could have left such a distinct entry and exit wounds. The Black Panther's spear seemed like a likely choice. And since he was one of the few here who had been chosen to harness the power of the Phoenix, Emma said, all signs point to Wakanda. He had a motive as well, Matt said. T'Challa would never have allowed Apocalypse to absorb Bast's fate, and when Gambit detected the residual Phoenix force in Apocalypse's wound, the Panther might have feared that his crime would be exposed. But thanks to Reed, we can take T'Challa's name off our list, Emma said. He confirmed that the cosmic energy in Gambit's wounds did not match the traces of the Phoenix Force found on Apocalypse's body. Once again, Matt said, 2 corpses, 2 different murders. But even with the King of Wakanda and the other Phoenix hosts ruled out as Gambit's potential killers, Emma continued, we still have another suspect. Parker Robbins, Matt said, walking over to the makeshift cell where the young man was being held. I prefer the Hood, he replied with a smile. Tell me how you did it, Matt said, and there's no use lying. I'll know. It was easy, Hermano, the Hood said. When I signed up with Oblivion, he upgraded my arsenal. Suddenly, my handgun could shoot rounds popping with his power. And as the name of my new master suggests, they obliterate everything in their path, including themselves. And you shot Gambit with one of these magic bullets, Emma asked. Why waste Oblivion's power on a fellow thief? He was about to take something my boss wanted, Parker replied. The Tablet of Death and Entropy. I was just planning to swipe it off Apocalypse's dead body and get the hell out of here, but the Cajun got in the way. And so, that's where the tablet went, Emma mused. Yeah, Parker continued. But you can have it back. All this ain't worth some old hunk of stone. The fact that you would give up your prize so easily seems suspicious, Matt said. After all, not long ago, you were willing to kill for it. What can I say? Parker replied. I've had a change of heart. Been watching from the shadows long enough to know I'm better off working with you than against you. For now, at least. And what will Oblivion think of that? Emma asked. Don't really care, Parker said. He may have given me the power, but he ain't the one calling the shots. I am. I'm going to make sure no one forgets it. So yeah, that's the full context of that, and then you can then review the final truth here, the death of Apocalypse. 4 murders, Matt said to the heroes assembled in Thebes. Wait a minute, hang on. Oh, okay. Let's see, 4 murders, but only 3 of the killers have faced justice. We've ruled out the notion that anyone in our number is on a killing spree, Emma said, but we have yet to determine who possessed the might, the means, and the motive to strike down Apocalypse during his ascension. That's why we've gathered you here again, Matt said. Share with us any information that can help identify the culprit who set all of this in motion. We have the evidence. We're hoping you have the final pieces that will complete the puzzle. The answers likely lie within Apocalypse's body itself, Emma said. His wounds had a number of unique properties worthy of further consideration. First, before Bucky showed up, Matt said, Logan discovered that Apocalypse's body was completely drained of blood. Still wasn't me, Jubilee said, flashing her fangs at Blade as she gave a sarcastic smile. We know, Jubilation, Emma said, but there must be another explanation for his amnemic state. Not so long ago, Venom suffered some severe wounds in his duel against Null, Reed said. His blood loss was abnormal, as if the weapon he was cut with had somehow siphoned the vital fluids from his body. They always say whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, Reed added. But I can tell you that doesn't apply to the All Black. The All Black? Thor questioned. It cannot be. There must be another explanation. Perhaps, Emma said, and if we move on to our next bit of evidence, we might find out. Next, before being dragged into the illusion, Matt said, Psylocke detected undead energy lingering in Apocalypse's wounds. Curious, Loki mused. Hela once told me of a discussion that she had with Null before she became the Queen in Black. She claimed that the All Black carries a kind of undead energy within its blade that gradually drains the soul of anyone it wounds. Maybe that's why the Lazarus Chamber couldn't revive Apocalypse, Jubilee said. Part of his soul was missing. An interesting assessment, Emma replied, but there is one more factor that needs to be considered. Finally, according to Gambit, Matt said, he locked onto traces of the Phoenix Force and Apocalypse's wounds while searching for the Tablet of Death and Entropy. Back on Clintar, Magic said, Jean was wounded by All Black. If the Phoenix Force has left residue energy in all of those who had touched it, could the All Black still carry a hint as well? Looks like we have our murder weapon, Matt said. Truly believe Null has returned already? Stephen asked. Nay, Thor replied. Not Null. I have heard of another who has wielded the Necro Sword. A butcher of gods who have been wreaking havoc in this timeline for many centuries. Perhaps the fluctuations in divine energy from Apocalypse's attempt to ascend caught his attention and drew him here, Reed deduced. If I were devoted to slaughtering gods, Emma said, taking one out before he could fully claim his mantle seems like a wise move. I don't get it, Jubilee said, doubt in her voice. An execution this savage feels intensely personal. And as far as I know, Apocalypse didn't have any beef with this god butcher. If he's in the process of ascension, then technically he isn't a god to be butchered, right? So why him? And more importantly, who's next? Yep. Alright, that's it. So, now that we have all the context of pretty much of that, let's resume and finish up here. This has taken way longer than I intended it to, but I'm pretty sure it'll all be worth it. Alright. Across the... Oops, I didn't mean to zoom it in like that. Anyway, across the veil. Sometimes things don't go according to plan. I mean, bueno. Here I am, Parker Robbins, the next-gen crime lord better known as the Hood, stuck in the middle of Egypt in some kind of alternate timeline. I'm a long way from the Bronx, and I couldn't be further from my comfort zone. Well, I guess that's not entirely true. I'm a prisoner again, and after my stay in the vault, I'm starting to get used to that. This time, it ain't El Gordo who put me on lockdown. It was a group of heroes, including Captain America himself. The same guy who swore he'd have my back when his cell was next to mine. Never meet your heroes, am I right? Apparently he and his buddies seemed to think I came here to kill them, when all I really hoped to do was to get my hands on the tablet of death and entropy. People were already dying left and right without my help, so it didn't really matter if I added another life to the count. They just used the magic seed to bring him back anyway. I snuck in, took out the red-eye Cajun, got to looting, mainly to get what the fellow who enchanted my cloak wanted. Turns out, heroes don't like the idea of someone like me having this much power in their hands. Maybe it was the near-death experience I gave to that does that mean to be payaso? I thought payaso had a different spelling. I mean, I'm no expert on Spanish, but anyway. So when they caught me red-handed, I gave the ancient chunk of stone back, told them I didn't even need it anymore, showed them a neat trick. The tablet could let them talk to the dead, and the dead have a lot to say. Moon Knight didn't trust me at first. Apparently he recognized me from some gang hit I was a part of a while back. But then I told him what the tablet had told me in the brief time I had my hands on it. The story of a long-suffering yet devout disciple who transformed his devotion into the gods into a fierce hatred that drove him to hunt them down. Apparently that rang a bell. He wanted to learn more so he could find out if this was the same killer who had taken out his boss's friends. I reminded Moon Knight that, just like me, he'd been chosen to represent a higher power. That meant he could probably commune with the tablet in the same way I did. Didn't expect he could use it better, though, but I guess that tracks. Me and Big O are still getting acquainted. The second he started muttering some ancient rite, dozens of spirits appeared, crying out for vengeance. Finally, All those voices that had been howling from the heart of the faith storm started making sense. Some were singing praises of Apocalypse, while others were accusing him of committing unforgivable crimes. But even I could tell that what they were saying didn't quite add up. There were spirits of beings of other worlds blaming Apocalypse of summoning the tides to crush them, claiming he blotted out their sons, leaving them to die in the endless winter. I knew the old geezer was powerful, but as far as I knew, his methods of genocide were way more direct. But it didn't matter. The chaos was just the kind of distraction I've been hoping for all along. I grabbed the tablet, blasted my way out of captivity, and used the power of my cloak to vanish from their sight. Not sure Moon Knight even noticed, but by the time Cap rushed out to follow, I was already gone, headed back to Bronx, I guess, with BX. Headed back to Bronx with my prize in hand. Like I said, sometimes things don't go according to plan. This job ain't one of them. Parker? Hate to tell you this, Parker, but, wait, hang on, yeah, here it is. I hate to tell you, Parker, but this animation tells otherwise. This has to, okay, because of its title being called Simply Misdelivered, I get the feeling that when Parker was told by Oblivion to get the tablet, it wasn't really him. It wasn't really Oblivion. It was Doom 2099 pulling off some sort of deception. Yeah, somehow Doom was able to deceive Parker, and now he has taken the tablet from him. But now this begs the question of why does Doom 2099 want the tablet? Of course, we know modern Doom has the tablet of life and eternity, and he does not intend to use it. But Doom 2099 has its counterpart, and he no doubtably intends to use it. But again, more on that some other time. Let's continue. We got one last page to read. And then there were none. This is your chance, Khonshu, Moon Knight said. I brought you the Faith Harvesting Engine. I beat down every single hero who tried to stand in my way. I proved my devotion to you. Now it's your turn to prove yourself to me. I have nothing to prove, my son, Khonshu snarled. Have I not given you everything? Everything except answers, Moon Knight responded. The altars have all been talking, and we agree that something's off here. Show us we're wrong. All you have to do is absorb the faith and ascend to reassure us that we have no reason to doubt. I would, Khonshu said, hesitation in his voice. But first, my son, you need to channel the faith devoted to me, to the moon, and to the Ankh. I will draw from it the strength that is right for me. No more, no less. I want the truth, Khonshu, Moon Knight snorted. What is it you seek to drain? The pure faith left in the engine, or the resentment against you within the Ankh amulet? Resentment? Has your madness finally consumed you, Mark Spector? Khonshu retorted sharply. The only resentment I bear now comes from you and your ungrateful accusations." "More excuses," Moon Knight said, his frustration growing. "It's almost like you know what's coming for you. I guess you should. After all, it's one of the things you're the god of." "And what is that, my avatar?" Khonshu asked. "Vengeance," Mark replied, angered in his voice. "Who would seek vengeance against me?" Khonshu questioned. "The millions of lives you snuffed out," Mark said. "Blasphemer!" Khonshu exclaimed. "How dare you accuse me of such atrocities?" "It took me a while to put it together," Mark replied. "Like most followers, my devotion blinded me. But once I used the Tablet of Death and Entropy, once I heard what those poor lost souls had to say, I realized that you were the only one powerful enough to unleash this kind of carnage, and the only one cruel enough to sacrifice entire civilizations to save your own bony ass." "You have no proof," Khonshu said. "But I have the facts," Mark replied. "You knew who was coming to kill you all along. You thought clawing your way out of the divine space and hiding in the Thebes of some distant universe would buy you time before he ever caught your trail. But you never expected what lied in wait for you was another doom, a mutant warlord poised to drain the faith from every god and leave you all mortal. Nowhere left to run. You actually came up with a plan. One that would turn the assassin's blade away from you and bury it in the mutant stealing that faith instead. So, you committed mass genocide on several moon-bearing worlds and turned their faith into resentment, just in time for Apocalypse to absorb it all without ever knowing what he was taking in. All the worlds that had long praised you now exalted Apocalypse, and just like that, all the curses freshly spat at you rained down on Apocalypse too. You knew the God Slayer wouldn't be able to resist hunting a deity who had deliberately slaughtered his followers, which made Apocalypse his prime target. And just to be safe, you sacrificed your own godhood to fly under the radar and feign innocence. Then you left me to do your dirty work, hoping I'd recover the faith harvesting engine and extract the resentment for you without any questions, just like the skulls I cracked in your name. The creatures of the night, former humans, I slaughtered because you demanded it. So, for all that blood you put on my hands, how many really had it coming? And how many died for nothing but a pretext for sacrifice in your name? How many, you bird-faced mythomaniac? Face it, he's not going to answer you, but don't worry, we all can make him squawk together, Jubilee said with a fanged smile, as she and the other three horsemen of death joined Moon Knight, rushing towards Khonshu, ready to attack. Khonshu, whose divine power had not yet been restored, knew he stood no chance against the heroes. In desperation, he reached out to the faith-harvesting engine and, disregarding the resentment within it, began to absorb the faith energy. He was wagering that he could endure what had already destroyed Apocalypse. A surging, ferocious wave of faith energy erupted from the engine, tearing apart the temple around them and continuously flooding into Khonshu's body. Channeling the power of the countless gods, Khonshu easily repelled the approaching heroes. "My fist!" Khonshu yelled. "Don't you see it? The death of the Enid is the beginning of the twilight of the gods." all will become a black universe of starless night, where nothing remains but the face of the void. I must not die, and the moon must not die. It is my duty, my very essence, to illuminate the night. And when that faded, long darkness falls at last, my moonlight shall be the final dawn this universe will ever know. Sacrifices were made, true, but they were a necessary evil. Purified or not, this faith will make me the most powerful god that ever was. A new moon is rising, Mark. Together, we can erase all evil from existence, if you choose wisely. I already did, Mark said, struggling back to his feet, ready for round 2. But at that moment, a dark blade sliced through the mystical barrier surrounding Thebes. Through it emerged a pale warrior with a sword as black as the eternal void. Just like every other god, he said with disdain. Your greed and arrogance will be your undoing. With that, he impaled Khonshu with his ebony sword. The moon god howled in pain as his mysterious assailant grabbed hold of him and the faith-harvesting engine, dragging them both back through the barrier. Before he vanished, the hooded assailant left the heroes with a parting message as he staggered into the storm. All gods must die. There we have it. Yep. There he is, right there. Only one person is responsible for this. Ever since the start of the season, and although I have said and mentioned it a few times, this all but confirms it, even though the writing was already there. Gore the God Butcher is responsible. And now, who knows how this is going to turn out, because there are no hints in here for what Season 10 is going to be. I mean, Gore is one of them. And Gore is said to be a playable character, or he's going to be a playable character. But we don't know entirely. For all we know, like Okay, had a brief disconnect with my mic there, as always. Anyway, as I was saying, word is that for Season 10, it will have Gore and Nightcrawler of the X-Men as the next playable hero characters. Well, I say hero, but Gore the God Butcher ain't no hero, unless you believe with his belief when it comes to gods, but that's a different story. But now we know. Now we know how things are adding up. There's still a few unresolved things that need to be dealt with. In fact, some of those unresolved things, thanks to this season. First, I'd rather have the image. There we go. First, even though it's been brought up very rarely, we still need to know the exact... We need to bring back Hive here. We need to bring back Hydra, because it has been 9 seasons, ever since the game's debut and had the Hydra map, with them wanting to bring back Hive. We need to focus on that. And I have a feeling that that might become the next big thing after this whole debacle with the gods. Then, we've seen bits of this throughout the various seasons, but Loki is up to something regarding with having the Phoenix Feather, a Norn Stone, and Canvas. All he needs is the ink of destiny. But where is he going to find such a thing? I don't know. But this also means that Sai's universe is gone. I was under the assumption it wasn't gone. I thought it was still around, but no. It has been destroyed. It's collapsed. It's gone. So she ain't going back home anytime soon. But it's possible it can be brought back if what Loki plans on doing to be true. And then there we go. And then Gambit was sent to steal the tablet of death and entropy from Black Cat. First off, why does Cat want the tablet of death and entropy? She already had stolen the tablet of life and eternity to give to Doom for safekeeping. So my only guess is that she might want to either give its counterpart to Doom, which is kind of unwise, or alternatively, she was going to keep it and use it as a bargaining chip of some kind. Possibly, who knows? Because Doom 2099 gets involved and steals it from Parker, as we see in the animation with the Thebes map, which is making me wonder if Felicia might have cut a deal with Doom of 2099 regarding the opposite tablet. Who knows? There's a lot that needs to be solved. Because while we know what killed Apocalypse, and now we know the full story of a lot of things going on in this season, there's a lot more questions than answers. Which hopefully some of those answers will be given in Season 10, while the rest of them will have to wait throughout the remainder of the different seasons. But alright, that will do for this episode of Marvel Rivals. Damn, this took a lot longer than I anticipated that it would. Did not expect this to turn into an hour-long video. So, join me next time. So first, I need a reminder with, where's the, oh, there it is. I need a reminder. So, that Lady Loki customization. Yeah, all the remaining stuff is just going to be skins and such. There's not going to be any, like, new proper events. So yeah, that's pretty much all I will do and show for Season 9 here for the game, because like I said, there won't be any new events sort of stuff. I don't plan on showing off Blood Hunt mode, because even with the additional rounds you can do with Nightmare mode, I feel like I did everything I could with Blood Hunt. And then I don't plan on showing off more of Age of Ultron mode, because I gotten everything I want out of that and I don't want the titles. So the only thing I could do is I could read this and the Age of Ultron comic here. Hang on, what else is there? Okay, I know we read this last time, and yeah, then I read Blood Hunt, and I was gonna say, where's the, oh, and yeah, we read Loki here. So yeah, the only things I could do is read the Rivals Summer Festival and the Age of Ultron story here to the Path of Doomsday. But then that would also mean, what would I do to fill things out? And I would have to fiddle with this. Okay. And I just feel that there's not enough yet. So yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is that we're just gonna wait till season 10 drops. So that's fine by me. Season 10 won't drop until September 11th, so I got a month ahead of me to take care of so much in this game, among other things as well. So yeah, join me next time when Season 10 starts, and we'll go over what we have to see, what it will offer. So, that is, well, unless something does get added into this season that can be worth showing off, which I doubt, if they drop something unexpectedly, yeah, I'll show it off. But for now, I'll see you guys in September. So that is it, and I'll see you guys next time.